purpose of this course is to provide factual information to help students achieve a greater understanding of vehicle safety and defensive driving. The benefits of this course is accident prevention through knowledge and information. Most of us would like to believe we are above average drivers, but the truth is the majority of drivers on the road never get past the basics. A philosophy called defensive driving is the basis for a more advanced course in driver and passenger safety. Defensive driving involves learning a more proactive attitude behind the wheel, anticipating potential hazards instead of simply reacting to them. If you've ever watched people who first learn to drive, they all quickly learn how to aim the vehicle between the lines of the road. In their mind, that's all they need to know. They'll pick up the other stuff through practical experience, which often takes a lifetime. While they are aiming their vehicle down the road, what happens if they have a blowout or something jumps in front of the vehicle? How do they react? In most cases, very poorly. This program will cover most of the most common problems while driving. Blind spots, most commonly, describe the rear quarter areas on both sides of the vehicle. Vehicles traveling in adjacent lanes may be in these blind spots. Regular-sized passenger cars have a blind spot that could easily hide a small animal. The blind spot of a larger SUV can easily hide a small child. Some reports show that more than 50 children per year are killed in accidents involving SUVs that could not see them while backing up. One of the best forms of protection for a driver is space, the distance between you and other traffic. Leave a cushion of space or a circle of safety around your car or truck to let other drivers see you and to avoid a collision. When you follow another vehicle, you need enough space to stop safely if the other vehicle brakes suddenly. A safe following distance is at least 2 seconds behind the vehicle in front of you. Follow the 2-second rule by picking a marker on the road, such as a road sign or pole. When the rear of the vehicle ahead passes the marker, count 1001, 1002. When the front of your vehicle reaches the marker, stop counting. If you reach it before you count 1002, you're following too closely. Leave more than a 2-second distance in bad weather and when following large vehicles that block your view of the road ahead. Leave more space when your vehicle is heavily loaded. Leave more space when following smaller, lighter vehicles, such as motorcycles, that can stop more quickly than you can. Mirror adjustment and learning how to use mirrors properly is an important part of defensive driving. We've all heard the warning, stop, look, and listen for trains. Don't take a chance with rail cars. We really don't have people doing this, do we? Unfortunately, cars, buses, and 18-wheelers seem to think they can beat a railroad car pulling through an intersection. This is really stupid. No matter what type of vehicle you operate, it's your responsibility to watch for trains at railroad crossings, because if an accident occurs here, it's very serious. The basic rules of courtesy are just the same, but something new and more dangerous has been added: weight and speed. More than 30,000 persons probably will die this year in traffic accidents. The lack of courtesy and consideration among most. Someone has been seriously injured here, perhaps crippled for life, because the discourteous driver would not yield the right of way to a pedestrian. Some discourteous drivers will be spared accidents by careful drivers, but they can't win every time. Highway survival begins with driving a safe vehicle. It should be obvious that it takes more than driving skill alone to ensure that you are not becoming another highway fatality. A top-grade driver in a third-rate clunker can spell tragedy. Your car must perform as it was designed to, especially in an emergency situation. No matter how well automobiles are built, certain parts wear out, need adjustment, or must be replaced periodically. Many motorists don't keep their cars in safe working order, either through ignorance or because they are just naturally careless about the proper maintenance. This maintenance is your responsibility, even though many states, as in Ohio, perform a service for the motoring public by holding vehicle inspections to help save lives by pointing out defects that could later cause accidents. The first rule of highway survival is to keep your car in good working order. Remember the 5 areas which need almost constant attention for maximum safety: tires, lights, brakes, exhaust system, and steering. Most people rely on their mechanic or shop to keep your vehicle in good shape, so make sure you attend all the recommended maintenance on your vehicle. Don't forget the battery and seat belts. Yes, seat belts can get worn, cut, or become damaged, so inspect them periodically. Don't forget to wear seat belts when operating a vehicle. Makes good sense. We have a great system in place for everyone. Red lights, green lights, bridges, off-ramps, and the way our roads are designed. This engineering works well only if we make a conscious effort to obey the rules of the roads. Otherwise, the same shortcuts we and other drivers take will all contribute to the gridlock. When we get in our car, we're a bit selfish. We get out there and say, well, I have to go someplace, not realizing and not giving the benefit to the other drivers who have to be someplace too. I would like to see everybody be a cooperative driver and we work as a team. Take a basketball or a football team. Any individual can go out there and be a star, but in order to make the team really work well, everybody has to work together. They have to cooperate. You let people in, and you can still move forward. And you've just made life a little bit easier on fellow drivers. When you're sleepy, your brain starts to shut down. Driving when you're sleepy is dangerous. It reduces your ability to drive effectively and to think quickly. Your reaction time is slower, awareness is decreased, and judgment is impaired. Often the actions of fatigued drivers are confused with drivers who've been drinking. The consequences can be just as fatal. The following tips can help you avoid falling asleep at the wheel. Get adequate and quality sleep before a trip. Avoid alcoholic beverages and heavy foods. Beware of medications that can impair your driving ability. Limit long-distance driving. Stop at least every 2 hours and rest. Stop at a safe place and take a nap. Wait at least 10 minutes after waking up to see how alert you are. If you don't feel any more alert, don't drive. Find a place to sleep for an hour or for the night. If possible, drive with a companion and switch driving when necessary. Talk with passengers, but not to the point of distraction. Keep the temperature cool in your vehicle. Keep your eyes moving and check your mirrors often. Avoid caffeine-type drinks like coffee or cola. They provide a short-term boost. However, if you're seriously sleep-deprived, no amount of caffeine will help. It's best to stay off the road. If possible, avoid driving during the peak drowsy times, from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. and from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. See your doctor if you're prone to constant sleepiness. Recognize the signs, know the dangers, and reduce your risks of driving when drowsy. As a driver, you must be in good physical and mental condition to drive. Before you drive, make sure you're comfortable with your physical and mental state, your vehicle, and the conditions in which you'll be driving. If you have any doubts about any of them, don't drive. It's a fact of life that as one ages, many of the benefits of youth seem to slip away. Everyone that ages will have the same basic problems, some less than others, but everyone should realize that when you become older, you're not the same person you were 30 or 40 years ago. Reduced vision, especially at night. Difficulty judging distance and speed. Limited movement and range of motion. Slower reaction time. Difficulty focusing attention for long periods of time. Easily distracted. More time needed to understand what we see and hear. More use of prescription and/or over-the-counter drugs that may impair your driving ability. Now, this doesn't mean that all older people who drive are not good drivers. Their experience, maturity, and knowledge can reduce many of the side effects of old age. What we should remember is that each individual is different, with varying degrees of ability. Yes, there are some older drivers who should not be driving, just as there are some young drivers who should not be allowed behind the wheel. Share the road. Don't get impatient if an older person is driving more carefully than others or being more cautious. Courtesy and respect for all drivers on the road will go a long way for accident prevention. Obey the maximum speed limit posted on signs along our roads and highways, but always drive at a speed that will let you stop safely. Drive the same speed as traffic around you without going over the speed limit. Many people believe that if the posted speed limit is 60 miles per hour, that's the legal speed no matter what. Actually, if the weather is bad, such as rain, snow, or other conditions that could affect your driving, then the legal speed limit is the speed that is the safest for the road condition. So if the speed limit says 45 miles per hour and it's snowing, then driving faster than 30 miles per hour may be unsafe. The speed limit really depends upon the driving conditions. Road rage is an attitude. Right now, when you get into your vehicle, you're prepared for the worst. You expect bad things to happen. You know there's going to be traffic jams, construction projects, heat, cold, bad weather, and of course poor drivers who drive too slow, too fast, or just don't know what they're doing behind the wheel. You have seniors to worry about, teenagers, big trucks, idiots, men drivers, women drivers, pedestrians, and all the things that make driving dangerous, and it's war. You know what to expect, so you're prepared with the adjusted attitude of a road warrior. The highway is no place for weapons. We do not support guns or other weapons on the highway. The very next time you operate a vehicle, just say to yourself that nothing's going to upset you. Absolutely nothing. If people want to pull in front of you, you'll let them in and you'll smile while they're doing it. Sure, deep down inside, you'd like to strangle them. But for this test, you're not going to get upset at anything. Adjust your attitude just this one time. Nothing's going to upset you for this test. Let them do their worst. But you're not going to holler, scream, honk your horn, or try to run them off the road. Nothing's going to bother you during this test period. Try this attitude for one driving period as a test. We're confident that everyone knows that being under the influence of alcohol, drugs, and other substances while operating a vehicle is illegal. We understand how it happens, as most people under the influence, they have all the skills and reaction times necessary, and that you can drive better than most people anyway, so there's no harm. People with a few drinks are generally not willing to admit that they're impaired, or that they're going only a few miles and they can handle it. Since people have been operating vehicles, we've had drinking and driving. In the past, there wasn't much notoriety and it wasn't talked about that much. In the past 20 or so years, drinking and driving has received a lot of publicity. However, it seems more drivers have been going to jail for killing people while driving under the influence, so the campaign on not driving and drinking hasn't worked that well. But at least everyone knows it's illegal. The legal liability of driving under the influence is enormous. Let's say you've only had a few drinks and are operating your vehicle lawfully, and someone runs a red light and hits you. You did nothing wrong, yet because you'd been drinking, you're the person going to jail. If a serious injury or death occurs, vehicle manslaughter charges are possible. It's really bad to drive under the influence. It's costly in the terms of lives lost, serious injuries, and the amount of money it costs for everyone. Lawyers need money, lots of money, and one good source is defending DUIs. Vehicles can skid on ice. You hit the brakes too hard and you slide. You take a curve too fast and you lose control. Cars are more likely to skid on wet pavement than on dry. Everybody knows that too. But what most drivers don't know is that with water on the pavement, a car could behave just the same as on ice, and it can happen to the car that you drive as well as it does to the test cars that you see in this film. Tire behavior was studied by photographing the moving tire through a glass plate installed in the runway. Slow-motion films show the tire at a speed of 25 miles per hour in 1/2 inch of water. As we look at the footprint of the tire against the glass, we can see that only part of the tire is in contact. Thus, even at 25 miles per hour, a partial loss of traction has occurred. By repeating the test at 50 miles per hour, we note the complete absence of contact between tire and glass. The tire is actually riding on a wheel of water, and there's a complete loss of traction. This is called hydroplaning. Very simply, it means that the tire is riding on top of a film of water instead of on the pavement, just like this attractive skier. The upward force which the water exerts on the ski is dependent upon the speed of the ski. At this speed, the forces are sufficient to keep the ski and the young lady on top of the water. No matter how good a driver you are, the chances are that someday you'll be involved in an auto accident. Our first impulse might be to run, but running won't solve anything, and besides, leaving the scene of an accident is a serious offense. Often, more orderly thoughts will drift back about what to do and what not to do in the event of an auto accident. Your life and health are more important than the damages to the automobiles, so immediately check yourself over for injuries. Each driver involved in an automobile accident is legally responsible for finding out if there are injuries and to offer assistance if necessary. If you're satisfied there are no injuries, try to remove the vehicles from the roadway to avoid collision with oncoming traffic. If the car won't start, direct traffic around the obstruction. If you're lucky, a passerby might volunteer to help, but don't request it. If this person gets hurt, you'll be liable. Exchange driver's license information with the other driver. In most states, the law requires that you show your license to both the other driver and the injured. Take down important data, the driver's name, address, and driver's license number. Also take the car license number and the make, model, and color of his automobile. This information can be valuable in case someone tries to substitute another vehicle when he makes out his insurance claim. Obtain the names and addresses of witnesses before they leave the scene. What a witness saw can be helpful in determining what actually happened if the other driver's story conflicts with your own. If you're lucky enough to have a camera with you, take a couple of good pictures. That can save a lot of guesswork if a question arises later. Try to show important details like the general location of the accident, where the vehicles came to rest, how the debris is scattered, and the skid marks. A close-up should show the extent of damage to both vehicles. Pictures also make it easier to recall details you may have forgotten in the excitement. Here are some points to remember. Remain at the scene of the accident. To leave at this time is a serious hit-and-run offense. If you suspect injuries, assist the injured. Leave the cars where they are and call the police. If there are fatalities, disturb nothing and notify the police. Warn oncoming traffic to avoid compounding the accident, but do so safely. If there are no injuries, remove the vehicles from the roadway if possible. Play it safe. Notify the police anyway. You've heard it enough. Don't do distracted driving. Talking on your cell phone or texting or listening to iPods while driving. The reason you do it is that you think it is important for you to communicate information to someone else, and you're certainly not going to pull off the road to take a call. Operating any type of vehicle carries with it enormous responsibility. Driving is a life and death proposition, and you're in charge. It's understandable how people make mistakes, but defensive driving can greatly reduce those mistakes. Accidents are generally not mistakes, but violating the rules of the road. Speeding, driving while under the influence, ignoring pedestrians, changing lanes without regard to other drivers, and much more. Defensive driving is an attitude. A good attitude while driving reduces accidents. Disregarding road rules greatly improves your chances of accidents, injuries, and death. Be a good driver and have a good attitude with good defensive driving.